in English. Okay. Is the transcription in English? Yes, because the last 2 interviews I did in Spanish.
Oh.
So I changed the settings. Okay. Okay, I think we're ready.
Yep. I put my phone on silent as well.
Perfect. Thank you for giving me that the time. Okay, you have any questions or shall we go?
All good.
No,
Let's
all
go.
good? Okay, let's go. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you are connecting. And thank you for always listening to our podcast in material business. We have gained so many more viewers and listeners, and I'm very grateful for you guys to keep on listening. And if you're new here, well, welcome. My name is Monica Hernandez, and I'm your host for the Material Business Podcast. And today we have a very special invitee, Ruba, and she's going to talk to us about all these new technologies and the 3D, and it's very exciting because it's something that we normally don't talk about, and is now we are using a lot of those new technologies in our day-to-day work. So thank you so much, Ruba, for coming.
Thank you, Monica, for having me.
Excellent. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Ruba. So Ruba Al Nashash. She's the founder and the design manager of 3D Nova. And is currently working as a design manager along all the other responsibilities of running 3D Nova. She's passionate technology project specialist with more than 11 years of experience in advanced design, fabrication, and production solutions across various industries. Ruba started her career in the oil and gas industry and then moved to the construction industry as a structural and design engineer for 5 years. She is a mother of 2 kids and enjoys spending time with the family, working on a prototype or watching TV during her spare time. Ruba graduated from the American University of Sharjah with a bachelor's degree in engineering. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Monica. So nice to have you.
Oh, how are you doing today?
Very good, very good. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. Perfect. So you have done a lot, and then definitely you are one of those girls in STEM women.
Yes.
So how did you end up in that realm, and then how did you decided that's what I want to go for?
So when I was in school, I've always loved art. Okay, I used to love art. I used to love design. But when it was time for me to join university and decide on what I want to do, I had to be a combination of art, design, and problem solving, which is part of it is engineering. So it was very difficult for me because I didn't really want to do architecture, and I didn't want to do anything to do with the full-on mechanical kind of engineering. So I decided to do a little bit of both, and I went into civil. I've always had a passion for design and art back in school, and I love problem solving. So I thought studying civil engineering might have a mix of those, but after going through my degree, I realized not really. But I've always loved these 2 things. That's why I went into slowly I transitioned through my career to design and the STEM world, basically. It's because it always gives you that combination of design and problem solving, both together.
That's very interesting. So it is, you get to have a little bit of creativity, and then the problem solving, and then the design aspect. So it's all encompassed in one. That is so so great.
Yeah, you always have to have like with STEM, it's the design aspect is as important as solving the problem. And I love to design, but the design has to have a purpose. It has to have a reason why we are creating that. It should solve a problem. So that's what's the beauty of STEM. You have both worlds working together.
Oh, that's so great. That is a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I have never done 3D. Tell me, what is like a day-to-day in, and the 3D design, say, solving a problem with 3D? What does that look like?
Okay, so basically my day is running around. Part of it, but 3D printing is amazing, and additive manufacturing, the different materials that come up every day is amazing, really. And my day-to-day looks like receiving customer designs or receiving an idea from a customer. Like at the moment, for example, we're working with a customer on a new idea, a new prototype that will solve a problem in the oil and gas. So going through that one step at a time and revising it, creating the prototype, adjusting it, revising it to get the final product, this is what my day-to-day looks like. And I have several of those projects. So it ranges. Like, for example, at the moment, I have an art project of a sculpture. So this is completely different than oil and gas, but they all have the same concept. You receive an idea, you work on a design, you perfect it, you adjust it, you create it, and you submit it. This is exactly what it is. So these are two completely different industries, but the process is almost the same. The sculpture I'm working on, the customer wants to replicate it. So we took that sculpture, it's a unique sculpture made of brass. She wants to do a 3D scan of it, reverse engineer it, and 3D print it and finish it to look like the original brass sculpture.
Wow.
So they're completely different industry. This is art and this is oil and gas, but they both have the exact same, almost the same process. So this is my day-to-day, basically.
That's very interesting. So can you print in any material? Can you print in, like, are there any limitations on materials? Because material business, we really like to talk about materials. So what about the material side?
So materials, of course, there's a limitation. At the moment, the most common is that there are different types of plastics, different grades of plastics. There are limitations. Like, for example, I received an inquiry from a customer. They want to print a cover for a candle. But this cover, it has this motif design on it, engraved in it. This motif design, it's very, very complicated motif design. 3D printing might be the best solution. However, because it's a candle cover, plastic will not work. She can think of printing it from metal, but that's going to be incredibly expensive. So that doesn't make any sense to print a candle holder from metal. So she had to optimize the design, change it, and I advised her to just, carve it out of a metal sheet and have it bent at the workshop so that she can have that cover out of metal. Because from plastic, that will just melt. It will deform. So that will work. So this is kind of some limitations that are there. Even for some car parts, let's say we have a customer who does performance car parts. There are limitations, like he does functional parts for air intakes, but for cold air intakes, he can do that. But and this is a fully functional part, but any part he wants to make that is related or close by to the engine where there's a lot of heat, then he would need to fabricate all of those designs that he's creating, of course, from metal. Mm-hmm. So these are the limitations. It's mainly heat, also strength. Materials are 3D printing materials, a lot of them are very high in strength, but it's still a limitation.
Thank you. Thank you for that technicality. So at the moment, the printing in metals is limited then. And
Yes.
it is okay. Okay, perfect. So from all the projects, and you mentioned already so many, but from all of the ones that you have worked on, is there any specific one that you are like, oh, that one was, it brings good or bad memories? One that you remember especially?
Yes, actually, there is one project that is very close to my heart, and that was my first job as an entrepreneur. It was my first customer, and that was Dubai Future Academy, Dubai Future Foundation. And we did a innovation training for teenagers at that time. That was my first job and first customer. And the idea of that training, we gave it all out. So what we did is we gave the attendees, we asked them that imagine you have a piece of land in Dubai. What would you build on that land? It has to have innovation in it. It has to be creativity. It has to be an idea, and it has to serve the community that you live in. And the ideas that they came up with was incredible. Like, we've had really incredible ideas that came up from students, what they have done is they have designed that project in 3D. They've 3D printed it to showcase it, and they've done a presentation on it, a full-on presentation of what this idea is. And they had, of course, there were prizes. It was approximately a 2 weeks project. So this is a very, very close project to me. It was a very nice one, very, very innovative to see what the young minds have. Another really nice, several projects that I've worked on was one of my top customers at the moment. She's been incredible support to me. She's been my main customer, and every time we come up with an art installation or a sculpture or a mechanical prototype, every time we have a project together, it's something completely different. So many challenges, and the more challenges, the better, because you learn so much and you get to try a lot. It's like our mini research and development area in this.
That sounds so inspiring. Thank you for sharing. So you mentioned entrepreneurial, and then from your bio, we know that before that you were in the corporate world. So when did you decide to jump into being an entrepreneur, and then how did that happen? And what was the motivation? Like, maybe that's something that a lot of people perhaps are looking at. And I always enjoy when I have entrepreneurs in the podcast, because that gives an idea of what was the motivation and how it's like to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so when in my second job, I was working in a fiberglass production company. And they used to work on amazing projects. Like, I had an amazing manager as well. He was just fantastic, and I loved the environment there. I was in an office of around 60 employees, of which only myself and another female, and 58 males. So it's a very male-dominated environment. So it was two reasons why I decided to switch and start my own, to become an entrepreneur and start my own small business. First reason is it became very difficult as a woman to move up. It became very difficult as a woman. Because it's a very male-dominated environment, it's just the criteria becomes very different. They always look at the men that they have the upper hand in everything related to such industries, and this applies to most of the engineering industries, I would say. The second reason is I had my second daughter, and our working hours are very long. It's from 7 a.m. to around 6 p.m. And usually private companies, they don't have a lot of accommodation to, you know, new moms and having a new baby. It's not that flexible. So I was lucky because my manager gave me the opportunity to work part-time, half a day until my daughter was 1. Uh, but and then after that things had to change, and it became very difficult for me to go back and work till 6 and leave her with a nanny all day. So I decided, you know, it's time to fulfill what I've been wanting to do for a long time, start something in additive manufacturing, because that was like a completely new idea 6 years ago, and I just jumped right into it. I just handed over my resignation and I said, this is the time. I'm just gonna do this. And I think it was one of the best decisions I've made. The amount of learnings you do when you quit your day-to-day job and decide to run your own. The other day I was talking with my partner, and it's almost half, let's say, $100,000 worth of investment in yourself just to become an entrepreneur, because the learnings you learn, it's nothing that you can learn in any school or university or nothing. It's an incredible learning journey. So this is my entrepreneurship learning phase and how I switched.
So one day you decided it's enough, I'm doing it. Yes. And you had already a plan made, or it was just like, I'll figure it out?
No, I actually, before, while I was still working, I had the idea, like I wanted to do a few things, and I've been working on the idea for around 4 or 5 months, but I was not yet at that stage where I'll say I will leave my job and start 3D Nova. But there was a time where it was like a sign. I was asked to come back full time, so I said, you know what? I think maybe this is a sign, and it's time. Let's take this opportunity and focus fully on 3D Nova. So that's when I on the same day I just sent an email with my resignation on the same day. No, not even planned. and it was the best decision, I believe.
That sounds fantastic. And I agree with you. It's a very steep learning curve, because all of a sudden you are having to be all of the challenges that you like, right? You have to be creative, and you have to solve problems, and you have to. So exactly. You went right into it. Well, congratulations. So 3D Nova has already 6 years?
Almost 5.5 years.
That's so great. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So from your perspective, what's the advantage then on this technological advancement? Let's say and the 3D printing versus a piece. And then I can for sure see the one example that you gave us on this client that wants to replicate a piece of art. So that's their motivation. But say, for example, in the industrial environment, what will be, say, one of the advantages of using 3D printing versus conventional things?
It's simply two things. On demand, so you don't need to leave large stock of parts available in your warehouse that will utilize a lot of space. So it's on demand. Whenever you need that piece, you get it made, and you just need one machine for it, let's say, or 2 machines, but you don't need a warehouse to store parts. So this is one main advantage of additive. The other one is a saves material. For example, sometimes we have a sculpture that instead of carving it out from, let's say, a block of wood or a block of foam, instead of carving it out, you can just get it 3D printed from scratch. This way you save all the material that's been carved out and that's going to get thrown away eventually. So these are the two main things. It's saving material and on demand. And the third thing is actually there are designs that there is no way to get it done other than 3D printing. The design itself and the complexity of it, you have to get it 3D printed.
Wow.
Especially if it's a one-off piece. If you have like 1,000 pieces, you're making 1,000 pieces, then you can get a mold done and replicate it. But if it's a 1, 2, 3 pieces, the best way is to 3D print.
And you're saying the word that we like a lot to talk in material business, which is sustainability, and so reducing all that waste, and then reducing the use of raw material. Obviously, is a tremendous advantage.
100%. 100%.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we've talked a lot about, the STEM, and then how, like, you and I are, women in an industry that is male dominated, and you touched a little bit about how, to get up into the ladder, it's a little bit more complicated for women. So what do you think will be, like, what do you think about where we are right now? Is any different from 6 years ago that you were in the industry? Has it changed? Like, what is the evolution, if any, on that aspect?
Of course, 100%. I think it's changing. Every year I see a complete different change. And I don't know if you've heard about there's this organization that I've recently joined, not recently joined, but I'm now the regional director it's called, for the Middle East, it's called Women in 3D Printing. And the whole purpose of Women in 3D Printing is to empower women in these industries and get them more involved in specifically additive manufacturing, which is the main part. But this is only one area, and you can see organizations like this, once they are created, they provide a support system for women to be more involved in these industries and to close this gender gap that's available. And I can see this slowly. This is changing, and even recently I've heard in a from an investor, there was a pitch from one of my friends. Actually, they were pitching their startup at a competition, at a pitch competition, and the investor said, and it was an industrial part that they're working on. It's for an oil and gas, and the investor said, how come you're a team of 4, for my friend, how come you're a team of 4, but there are no women in your team? I want to see some women in your team. And I found that very impressive. Like, one of the criteria for that competition is to have both women and men on that team. So things are changing. It's changing to the positive side, definitely. Like, I thought that comment from the investor, that because they do see now the value, they see the value of having both working together, because it's different mindsets, different ways of looking at things.
Absolutely. I went last week to the energy forum. And then one of the things that it was repeatedly said in stage is, the more different mentalities that you have on a table. So not only women and men, but also, old people, younger people, more experienced one, less experienced one, from whatever, from Colombia, from Dubai, from Libya, from China, from Canada, from wherever. The more diverse group that you have to take a decision, the easier it becomes, because you all are drawing from your perspective.
100%.
And then it becomes challenging, because obviously we don't all have the same values and we don't see things. But then that challenge is what brings the best and the more sustainable ideas in an overall. So it was said all over and over and over. So you are seeing the change.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So those organizations are empowering women to be, whatever they want to be. And
Exactly.
then, so what kind of, for example, what kind of activities do they offer? Is there anything that they offer to empower?
Yes. So at the moment, all of the ambassadors that are representing each country, primarily it has to be a woman in that field. I mean, if they cannot find someone, a female, and like for example, we had one country where we couldn't find any female to represent. So we had a male come on board. But this is the criteria. Like you have to be a female working in this field to represent your country as an ambassador. For example, the last conference that happened, which is TIPE conference, it was most of the speakers were also women, from women and their input, and actually the two ladies who are representing women in 3D printing, they're at the head of one of the top companies in the world in additive manufacturing. And both are women. So they focus a lot on how to empower women in this field.
That's so great. So conferences, opportunities, are there any like mentorship opportunities as well, or
Yes,
like learning?
they have mentorship, they have career also. There was a career fair within the conference as well. So anyone who's looking for opportunities, whether hybrid, remotely, in-person career and job opportunities, there were companies there that were representing and hiring as well.
That sounds amazing. And it's, it's one of the things that we have said over and over and over in the show is build on your support system. And this is a beautiful opportunity and then a good idea on how to do it.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. So let me ask you this, if you were 15 years younger, if you could travel to in the time, and go back and talk to Ruba 15 years ago, what would you say to yourself?
I would say, I would, I would not be so hard on myself. I would say I would still push myself the way I used to push myself in school. I think I'm pretty happy with how I used to be a very hardworking student in school and in university. I would do exactly the same thing. I would do exactly the same thing. I would keep my momentum. I could keep working hard, and I would say that for all the girls, I mean, at that age, I heard this saying the other day from this famous person. His name is Grant Cardone. I don't know if you know him, but he said a saying. It completely slipped off my mind. It's basically related to hard work and success. They are both related to each other. You can't, if for all students now, even in school, you can't lay down and have a break all the time and not do all the work and expect to get something, or expect to become successful, or get the grades you want, or reach to the level you want if you don't put in the hard work. It's not enough to only be smart. You have to put in a lot of hard work. So I think this is something I've heard. He had a specific say, but I can't remember it right now. But it's basically hard work and grit is what will get you anywhere.
Yeah, I read yesterday something and they said there is a formula. So everything that you know is everything you have studied, and then you have a accumulated of knowledge and all that, the experience you have, so exposure and experience. But then the most important, those two is addition. So experience plus your knowledge. and that you make times your attitude. So your attitude actually is a multiplier. The other two things are important. They add value, but the multiplier of anything is your attitude. So that is absolutely it. You cannot just, like you said, not do the work and then expect all of a sudden to have success and then be.
I love that. I love that. The attitude part. I love that.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Yeah.
Super. So we've talked about many things. We are almost at the end of our time together. So do you have any message for the audience? And then I'll ask you for 2 messages. I'll ask you for 3 messages because you're special. I'll ask you for 1 message for the girls in STEM. And then I'll ask you for a message for the general audience. And then I'll ask you for a message for anyone that is thinking, oh my God, my day sucks. I don't want to do 9 to 5. I don't see my children. I want to go and do something on my own. And those people that are debating whether or not being an entrepreneur.
Okay, so my first message to the girls is, it doesn't matter what it is you want to do. You should go out and try. If you don't try, if you have a passion for something, or if you're interested, not even a passion, sometimes you don't even know that you have a passion for something unless you first try it. How are you going to know you're passionate about it if you don't try? So go ahead and try. Keep trying until you find what you really want to do, and go ahead and do it. Don't allow anyone to put any barriers for you. Don't allow them to say, oh, this is not for girls, this is for boys, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Just go and try. Okay, just challenge people around you. Go ahead and try. For the for, let's say, in general, I mean, as a mom who's been living here for a very long time, and a entrepreneur, and I've worked in the construction industry, oil and gas, and these industries, I would say, if you believe in something, and if you believe that you can make something work, and you believe in yourself, and you know that something is going to work, go ahead and do it. There's a lot of people around you who will tell you, no, this will not work, don't do that, don't try this, because they think they have more experience than you. But you know what you want, and you know what you have to do. So try it and do it. If it works, then you've at least tried, and you say, I've tried and it worked. But if it doesn't, you won't feel the regret that you haven't tried. So always work on it, and try to block the external voices, unless it's coming from a professional like Monica, let's say. But always try. Don't block yourself because this person said, and then say, and so on. And for moms, I know it's hard, really. It's very hard. Like, for example, the past few days, my son has exams, and I've been trying to run around, dropping him off to exams and picking him up after an hour, and then running to the next meeting, and then coming back to pick up my second child, and preparing lunch, and then getting all the work done, and staying up late to work to finish a design, and so on. All I say is that if you have an opportunity to spend just 5 minutes with those kids, without thinking about work, without thinking of what you have to do next, without thinking about all the chores that you have to do, enjoy it. Like yesterday, it was just a 5 minutes drop to school with my kids, and we spent the whole 5 minutes talking about what terminology we used to use in the 90s, instruments that I used to use in the 90s. And I asked my kids a few questions about what's a fax machine, what's a VHS machine, and what's a Walkman. And we had a huge laugh about all these things. And it was a very nice conversation to see what they understand from certain things. So enjoy the moment with them, because one day they will grow up and you will not get those small talks as often as you would think.
Oh, that's so great, and it's very interesting. I had a talk at one of the schools on Monday, and then that was one of the topics. It's how do we connect in a moment that is busy, like we are busy, and then people have 2-3 jobs or one job that is very demanding or whatever, and they come home and they're busy, and so it's not the quantity of time. It is what you're saying. It is the quality. So if it is only 5 minutes, if it is only 10 minutes, if it is only that time is undedicated attention to that person, and then that makes the connection blossom.
100%, yeah, 100%. Even if it's just a ride to school, a ride to your soccer class, whatever it is, it's 5 minutes on TV. It's the quality, not the quantity.
Excellent. Ruba, we are at the end of the podcast today, and I thank you very much for coming and for giving us that time and for enlightening. And I'm very curious now about learning more about 3D printing. I know it's a really good solution, and now that we have a little bit of information on the advantages and all that is really nice. Congratulations on your venture. Congratulations on 3D Nova, and kudos for being the person, the mom, the friend, the lead, the spouse that inspires people. I know that a lot of people look up to you, and it is so nice to have women represent us in such a nice way in all the aspects of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, and all the best with your podcast. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. And to all our audience, keep on dialed and subscribe, like the YouTuber said. And we'll continue having the next episode in 2 weeks. And I'll hope to see you and hear from you in the next weeks. So thank you so much.
Thank you.